Welcome to Biz Buzz. I'm John Ketzenberger, columnist with the Indianapolis Star, and we're here to talk all things business in central Indiana. With me today is Eunice Trotter, who is an assistant business editor, and we're going to talk about several things. Eunice, thanks for being with me today.
Thank you, John. I'm glad to be here.
We're going to start with talking about CEO pay, something that we covered in the Indianapolis Star on Sunday. We did a package about this, the top 44 paid CEOs from public companies in central Indiana. There were several trends that Eunice will talk about regarding what we saw in the CEO pay package, but I wanted to start with some statistics about the CEO pay. One of the first things that I noticed about the CEO pay was that it was still pretty good, despite the fact that most CEOs saw a decrease in pay over the year. And the top 5 in the CEO survey in Indiana all did not receive a bonus for the year. That doesn't mean they went without compensation. Leading the list this year was John Lechleiter, who was in his first year as CEO of Eli Lilly and Company. Mr. Lechleiter's pay was $10.6 million, including a $6.5 million stock award. So that was the majority of his pay. Number 2 on the list was Tim Sulso, the veteran CEO of Cummins Incorporated, the diesel engine maker in Columbus, Indiana. His pay was $9.2 million, which was 13% less than the previous year, and the company made a 2% profit. Third on the list was Angela Brawley, another first-year CEO. She is the CEO of WellPoint, the nation's largest health insurance company. Her pay was $8.6 million. And the next on the list was Peter Soderberg, whose people in Indianapolis probably don't know very well. But he was the CEO of Hill-Rom, which is the equipment manufacturer and casket maker over in Batesville. His pay was $6.2 million, which was up 33%. And finally in the top 5 is David Dvorak, who is the first-year CEO at Zimmer Holdings, which is the company that makes orthopedic products in Warsaw. His pay was $6.2 million, and the company posted a 10% profit. Overall, the average pay for CEOs in Indiana was $3.6 million, which was about a 20% decline from the previous year. Now, Eunice, we've looked at all of these statistics. What are some of the trends that jumped out as you put this package together with reporter Dan Lee?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I saw was that while pay was down 20%, stockholder value was down 44%. So if executives are to be compensated according to performance, I don't think those two things line up. That's right. Additionally, there were some other findings that we came across as we put this package together. For example, the bonuses are smaller last year. The bonuses did not actually react as quickly to the market as you would have expected, considering the kind of year that we came out of.
Right.
But there was some reaction and they were smaller. Then equity compensation also, it was also stable.
That's the stock that people receive, that the CEOs have received from their companies.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I wanted to kind of get into a little bit of something else here as we talk about executive pay. And that's, now what are we going to do about it as shareholders and as the public? And there are several bills now in Congress that deal with executive pay issues. For example, one of the most interesting one is say on pay. And say on pay would allow shareholders to have a say in what a CEO would earn. Now, the interesting thing about this is it's not binding.
Right.
So that means the shareholders only get to make a recommendation, and that's it.
And the board of directors then would have the final say on what the pay is, which is they have now, but right now they do that without any input, in most cases, without any input from shareholders, the people who actually own the company.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's another piece of legislation too pending. It's called the proxy access legislation, and that would provide increased proxy access, giving shareholders the ability to have someone else vote for them when they couldn't do that. There's also an expanded clawback policy provision that's pending too. Now, what that means is that if a CEO does not perform as that CEO was supposed to perform, or if the earnings were misstated, for example. You know, that does happen with companies. You know, hold it, wait a minute, let me, you know, restate these earnings because we didn't do this right or that right. Then that CEO's pay could be affected too. So in effect, pay would be cut back in this clawback provision. And then there are bills that I know won't fly, John. These bills would outright limit certain forms of compensation.
Right. Something that President Obama has talked about in certain industries, but you're talking about a more general bill that would limit executive pay across the board, right?
Absolutely. And certain forms of compensation, whether it be bonuses, whether it be stock options and awards, or there would be those limits.
This is an issue that has constantly gone through, it seems like year after year, but has gained more relevance as we have seen the situation with the economic meltdown, and people hear about the CEOs of these bankrupt financing firms still garnering $35, $40 million salaries. And so that is kind of the atmosphere in which we're working. Do you really think that some of these CEO pay issues will be affected so that shareholders have more input and that there will be some limits or at least some changes placed on CEO pay, or is this just something that's going to be a furor for now and then pass?
Well, frankly, John, I think it's going to be a furor for now and pass. A furor for now and pass. And a lot of this is being driven, of course, by the economy, too, and I think it will soon pass.
Well, we'll see how it turns out, but I want to direct your attention to IndyStar.com, where we have posted the package that we did last Sunday about executive pay. Now, this Sunday, we're going to have a large feature about the best places to work in Indiana. It's an effort that's been put together by reporter Erica Smith, and again, this is something that Eunice did a lot of work on in editing. So, Eunice, I'm going to turn it over to you to explain what this project was and to let us know a little bit more about the top workplaces in Indiana.
Well, this is my baby, and I'm going to show you what it's going to look like Sunday in your Indianapolis Star. But you can't see the winners. A little flash there. We'll announce the winners of the best places to work on Sunday in the Star, a special section. And as John said, Erica Smith and Dana Knight worked on this package, and we also worked with a company called Workplace Dynamics. And this company polled, so actually what the company did is it opened up this survey to every company in central Indiana. And about 600 companies responded. About 140 companies, 130 companies allowed their employees to respond. And what makes this survey different than most that you've seen and heard about is that, number one, employees did all the talking. The employees, in an anonymous way, were able to rate their companies. And boy, did they rate. About 17,000 employees participated in this online survey. And they addressed issues such as the direction of the company, the execution of that direction, what kind of managers they had, career opportunities, and pay and benefit issues. And we have some surprises in terms of which companies emerged as the best places to work. One other point that I want to make here too is it did not cost the companies a dime to participate. And whether that's good or whether that's bad is not relevant, but what I think is significant is the employee's voice was heard as a collective. And from that, we have 60 companies, of which the large 1 through 15 companies are ranked, the medium-sized 1 through 20 companies are ranked, and the small 1 through 25 companies are ranked.
This is information that will be available both in the Indianapolis Star on Sunday morning and also on our website at IndyStar.com. So Eunice, this is something, and I will draw that distinction again, this is something that the companies voluntarily participated in, and their employees were able to make their judgments anonymously so that there couldn't be any retribution. There's no pay to play, if you will. This is an objective survey.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, so look for that.
So what makes a good place to work?
Working with people like you, Eunice. How's that?
Okay.
You're watching Biz Buzz, where we talk all things business in Central Indiana. And I want to finish this week by inviting you to bring your questions to us next week on IndyStar.com. We'll be here again at 10 a.m. live, and you can watch all week long on IndyStar.com. And for tomorrow in the paper and online, I'm going to write about a company that you should know about in Central Indiana. It's called Bright Automotive, and they have an idea, which is a delivery van that they've developed from scratch. And if they are able to get $500 million from the government, and that's a lot of money, they will be able to assemble this van, $50,000 a year, and it would employ 5,000 Hoosiers to make those vans. But there's much more to this story, and I would invite you to check out the rest of the story in my column tomorrow in the Indianapolis Star. Eunice, that's Biz Buzz for this week. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you. Bye.
Please tune in again for Biz Buzz, where we talk all things business in Central Indiana.